They're defined with one of three keywords: public, protected, or private. If you leave out the keyword, you will get a parse error. The keywords refer to the scope of visibility of the member variables, which I'll explore in greater detail in a later video. For the time being, all examples will use public properties. Properties are declared like regular variables, including the naming conventions of PHP labels. Same as class naming, it must start with a letter or underscore, then be followed by any number of letters, numbers, or underscores. When naming a property, a best practice is to use lower camel naming, meaning the first letter of the name needs to be lowercase, and the first letter of any remaining words should be capitalized. Avoid naming a public property with an underscore at the beginning. Depending on the coding standard, this may visually indicate that it's actually private. When declaring a property, you can optionally initialize it with a default value. If you do, it must be a constant value. This means the value must be able to be evaluated upon compilation and not depend on something determined while running. Let's build upon the first address class. Public street name. This is a valid property name that follows best practices. Public subdivision name equals California. This is also a valid property name that includes an initialization. Public underscore city. This is a valid property name, but as described before, does not follow best practices by implying that it has a different variable scope. Public time underscore updated equals time. This is a valid property name, but as the value is determined at runtime, this is an illegal initialization and will generate a parse error. Public dash address ID. This is an invalid property name as it starts with a dash, not an underscore. This will generate a parse error, expecting a t variable. Public city underscore copy equals underscore city. This is an invalid initialization as it depends on a runtime evaluation, so it will also trigger a parse error. Let's clean up this example and make it useful in a real-world application and add some documentation. For the time being, I'll use human-readable data for properties with known domains, such as the city, subdivision, and country name. We'll start with basic class documentation. Next, add properties to hold the street address. Public street address 1. Public street address 2. Next, the name of the city. Public city underscore name. Next, the name of the subdivision. This can be a state, territory, region, etc. Public subdivision name. Next, the postal code. Public postal code. And finally, the name of the country. Public country name. Now that we have a class definition, let's save it before we move on to creating a method in the next video.